Overtime.
Hello and welcome to Overtime, our podcast here at 5:31 PI as part of our Pacific Grandstand Sports Show. You can catch us on a Saturday morning for our sports show, and here on Overtime, if you've been watching the last couple of weeks, you'll understand that we've gone a little bit off the track that we normally walk down. Last week, we decided to give you guys, our audience, an insight into myself, Willie Poaching, my man Matt Manukua here, who's the other host of the show. But last week, I was the guest, and today Matt is the guest, because last week he interviewed myself. And if you want to get to know a bit about myself, then go back and watch that episode. But today, we're going to get to know Matt and talk about his journey, his story, where he's grown up and how he got here to where we are today. So, Matty, good to have you back. How's the week been?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me. It's cool to be on this side of the stick and also be the interviewee for once as a journalist, and it's my job to interview people all week or all year round, so it's good to be in the hot seat. Now, the week's been good. Was a cruisy week last week. Like I mentioned in the last week's podcast, got back from Dunedin, and now it's just been adjusting to coming back, seeing my family, seeing my little nephew as well, who's just turned 1 month old last week. So it'll be a really special time for my family. And now it's crunch time, getting into October, November, and then the end of the year antics too.
We'll kick off. Where did it all start for Matt Manukua? Where were you born? Where did you grow up?
Yeah. So I grew up in Mount Albert. I'm born and bred in Mount Albert, particularly Oeraka, which I'm wearing the Oeraka jumper today that my brother Zach designed. Yeah, so I grew up in Oeraka, right on Hendon Ave. Grew up around my 5 brothers. So I've got 5 brothers, 3 older, 2 younger, and my mum and dad. And we grew up around that place. I went to Avondale. I went to Oeraka Primary School, went to Avondale Intermediate, and then Avondale College, where I finished my schooling off. So yeah, it was a good upbringing around Hendon Ave. It was a close, tight-knit community, really diverse. If you know that area and you know that the community around there, there's a lot of immigrants. There's a lot of people from the Middle East, from Asia, from India, from the Pacific Islands, Europeans as well around that area. So it was a whole melting pot within that vicinity around Mount Albert and Oeraka in particular. So yeah, I've got some great memories down in Mount Albert, but it's also really cool to represent Central Auckland, that part of Central Auckland, I guess, when you're a Pacific Islander, because a lot of our Pacific community is nowadays are from South Auckland. So there's a lot of South Auckland Pacific Islanders, but so when I go into spaces where there's heavily dominated by Pacific people, it's awesome to proudly say that I'm from Central Auckland. So yeah, that's a bit about where I grew up, and Oeraka Primary was a cool place to learn and grow, and then all my brothers went there from 2001 right up until 2023 last year, which was the last year for my youngest brother Riley. So we had a long history there at the school, and then I went to Avondale Intermediate, where I was sort of exposed to the lifestyle and the people around the start of West Auckland and Avondale, and met some of my best mates over at Avondale Intermediate as well. And then I eventually headed to Avondale College, where I spent the first 2 years of my schooling life with my 2 older brothers, Ethan and Trent, and spent some really great years at Avondale College too.
Growing up in a house of 6 boys. Tell us a little bit about that. Some of the fun times, some of the rough times.
Yeah,
I imagine.
Yeah, it was definitely fun times and rough times, bro. It was a 3-bedroom house, small house, so we're all sharing rooms and we're all in each other's space. Especially, and growing up, it was 4 of us. It was my oldest brother Zach, my second brother Trent, Ethan, and myself. And we grew up and we fought. We played games together. We tried different things. I remember getting a haircut from my brother Trent. One day he just saw a photo of Isaac Luke. He had that had this weird line on his head, and he came to me one day. He said, "Oh, I'll give you this cool haircut." So it was all these different things, trying different things and competing against each other, but also a lot of testosterone in the house. So there was a lot of fighting, a lot of arguments and that too, which in a household full of boys, you can't stray away from. But my mum and dad did a really good job of keeping us together, especially keeping our brotherhood together. That we know, or we sort of know now that we're adults, that wherever we go, we can always lean on each other and support each other through everything that we have. And that's a lot of credit to our parents of keeping us close, but also our grandparents and our aunties and uncles too during our upbringing, who were over at our house a lot. So yeah, if you know Hendenavi, you know all of my family definitely, and have been involved with my family of friends, all family. Everyone's been through that house in Hendenav, 79 Hendenav, and whether we had mates just walk through the door, come and sit in our lounge, come and talk to mum and dad. Mum and dad were always welcome and open arms for any of our friends or family just to come in and find a safe space within our house. So it was a special place growing up, and yeah, it was definitely some good memories in that house.
6 boys to your parents in the house. What type of dynamic was it? What type of sons were you as a group to your parents?
Yep.
And how was young Matt Manukora?
Yeah. So yeah, obviously there's 6 of us, 4 of us, majority of our lives we grew up together, and then the 2, Thurston and Riley, came a little bit later. So my parents are a little bit older for them too. But yeah, my oldest brother Zach, he's a quiet dude. He gets the work done. He will sit in the background and he's a hard worker. He's a grinder. Trent is one of those ones that challenges my parents. He's a challenger. He'll challenge the status quo, and he'll look to find different ways into to how to improve himself, but also improve people around him. He's a leader, and Ethan, he's a center of attention type of dude. So he had all the accolades when we were growing up. He won everything. He was a deputy head boy at the school. He was an athlete in all these different sports. So he has such a bright and bubbly personality. So that was Ethan. Myself, I was an introverted, quiet young bloke when I was growing up. I didn't really like the spotlight. I liked to stay away and hide away, and very shy and timid. So I wouldn't talk much, which changed as I grew older. But yeah, I was that type of thing. But since I was the youngest of the 4, I was the one that was getting us in trouble all the time, whether it would be silly antics or stealing food or stealing money off my parents. I was that little cheeky guy, and then my Thurston is number 5, and he's a thinker, he's a thinker, and also he's someone that wants to try and do new things and pave his own way, because he's got 4 older brothers breathing down his neck. So he's the number 5, and then Riley's the youngest. So obviously he gets the brunt of it all. He gets 5 adult brothers, 2 old parents, and so he's just still finding his way too. So it was all whole different mixture of personalities when we were growing up. So the shy dudes would clash with the outgoing and the extroverted dudes, and vice versa sometimes too. I remember my brother Ethan would always steal my clothes, or I'd see him one day and just wearing something of mine that I kind of realized, and I'd see him across the room, and he'd be happily wearing one of my jumpers, one of my t-shirts, and I'm like fuming, and I'm like, how dare you, stop. And one day I snapped at him, I was like, stop stealing my shit, man. I paid for that stuff. Yeah, so it was that type of dynamic, but yeah, we loved each other nonetheless.
So you're a bit of a troublemaker. Yeah. You fronted your brothers when they took your clothes, yet you were a shy, unassuming, quiet guy.
Yep.
Is that right? Well, normally it's the shy ones that say they're pretty shy.
Yeah,
It's the loud ones, it's the naughty ones.
Yep.
We see where this is going. Go back to primary school. What type of student were you at Owaraka Primary?
Yeah, I was it was quite a while ago. I can't remember what type of student I was. I like to say I was a good student, but towards the latter years I was a bit of a clown, bit of a not the class clown, but just clown around with my mates. But yeah, it was one of my memories at school was always the athletics day, because that's when you prove who's the fastest. So I'd be in those races, and sometimes I'd be the fastest at the school, sometimes I wouldn't be the fastest. And I think it's always funny when you're doing those races, or when you're younger, and you take your shoes off, so you're in bare feet, and it's like your bare feet gives you plus 10 speed, bro. It's like it gives. So that's a lot of the boys at my school at Owaraka Primary. We used to race on the field to see who was the fastest. So but I really enjoyed my time at Oiraka Primary, and really set a good foundation for the rest of my life.
And Oiraka Primary has been the product of many a successful young person, especially in rugby league terms, to come out of the school, to come from that area, to grow up around Hendon Park and Hendon Ave. Any notable students that you were at school at the time that you were there?
That's a good question. I think probably the most famous person that I know that went to Oiraka Primary School, maybe two famous people that went, and I met them in year 6. One was Sonny Bill Williams, so he came to Oiraka Primary when he was younger, and I remember he came for the opening of the Whale at Oiraka Primary School, and he's sitting there. This was about 2011, and he was at the peak of his career when he was part of the Rugby World Cup squad. So that was really cool just to see him and know that he came from the same neighborhood that I did. It was really inspiring as a young Pacifica person. But then Frankie Adams came. Frankie Adams, the actress, she came to Oiraka Primary School too. And funny story, she used to babysit me when I was younger. So her mum, Lau, who still works at Oiraka, and my mum were really good friends. And my mum would drop me off to Harges Terrace where they lived, and I'd go and she'd babysit me. So there was one time I saw her at primary school and she came back and she told in front of everyone, she goes, I remember I used to babysit you when you were younger, and no one believed me, but all my mates were buzzing out, and then she gave me a fat kiss on the cheek right here, and I went home happy I didn't wash my cheek for the next how old am I? 23? Oh yeah, for the next 11 years. No.
Moving into high school, what was your main focus going through school? And it's a lot of people were talking about Sonny Bill and people from around that area, and it's when they start to decide, do they go the sporting way or the academic way? What was your focus? What was your priority?
150% sporting way, bro. I remember early on, I guess around that age when I got into college, I started to take sports a lot seriously. I was playing for the Manabit Lions at the time, but it was something that, I think as you get older, you sort of understand that sports as a career starts to become more viable when you learn different aspects about it. But especially in that crucial age, in that young age, when you're entering high school, it's a heavy influence for a lot of our young people, but especially for me. So I remember training and playing was my number one priority every single time. I remember I didn't do one of my homeworks for my product development classes, and my teacher, he said, why don't you do your homework, Matt? And I said, it's because I had training. And he goes, so he said in front of the class, he said, what's more important, sports or education? And I looked at him dead serious and I said, sports, of course. And it was silly. It was really naive for me at the time, but I fully believed that sports was the number one way to success. And I feel like that's the same thing for a lot of our young Pacifica people, that school is not really something that they find themselves in. So things that we're good at, we're really gifted physically, and it takes a type of person to make it in sports that I think a lot of our Pacific people believe them to do. So that's what I believed, and I looked at him seriously in front of the whole class, bro, and I was like, I believe sports would be the one thing for me. And eventually that perspective changed as I got older, but also I went through my own trials and tribulations in my life that led me towards looking away from sport and looking on a broader spectrum.
While we're on this topic, for our communities in particular, how important is it, especially at that young age, to have education as a priority? Because as you say, like yourself, there's many others that put all their eggs into the one basket. And when that basket becomes empty and it doesn't work out, sometimes it's too late to fall back to the education side, which is not the case really. It's never too late. But going back to high school, what would your message be to some of the young people that are in the shoes and are very much like yourself or like you were?
Yeah, if I could go back and give myself advice or give some young people advice, is definitely consider education as one of the pathways to success. I know for our Pacific people, it's education and sort of degrees and all these different things that are outside of sports, or let's take sports for example. It seems so far out of reach, but I guess it's in school. It sort of prepares you for that type of lifestyle in terms of honing in your skills in this corporate world, but also educating you about many different things in life. My degree and my education allowed me to or challenged me to think critically about the world and my own life and how I am able to impact the world and what I do. So that's a part of education that is really that opens up your mind. I agree, and I fully back that. Education is not for everyone, and which is why it leads to our Pacific people, especially looking to different avenues away from education. But I reflect on my late auntie Gina, and she would always say to me, go to university, go to school, and get an education. Never mind sports, never mind girls, never mind all those little things that you get into, those little behaviors you get into as a young age. She always reminded us that education was the key, and I didn't quite understand that until I received my university entrance when I was in my fresh year, when I was in year 13 at high school. That man, this could really benefit me in the future, and that's sort of where it led to me today. But there's a whole different way of all these different ways and different pathways you can make success out of outside of sport. So I definitely advise our people, especially our young people, to look outwards. Look to different avenues, look to your strengths and how you can impact and benefit your community around you.
We'll come back a little bit and we'll focus on why you had a priority and why you had a mind to be ambitious in sport. Growing up on Hendon Ave, as you know, I know it very well.
Yep.
People that don't know, Hendon Ave, back in the day, on one side there was Marist Rugby League,
Yep.
and on the other side there was Mount Albert Rugby League schoolboys, Hendon Park. There was Murray Halberg and Hendon Park. You actually lived on the back of Murray Halberg at Marist, but you played for Mount Albert. How did that happen?
Man, that's a good question and good story, bro, because I didn't realise that Hendon Park was a thing until I was a bit older. But yeah, back in when my oldest brother, Zach, he was young, when he was maybe 4 or 5, my mum encouraged my dad, to go take him to rugby league, to go and sign him up to the club. Now, she had 2 options, and I always asked him, Mum, why didn't you go to Marist? Why didn't you go to Mount Albert? And because Mount Albert was closer for us, so my dad, we're in front of Allenwood Park, so so my dad just crossed Allenwood Park and then went right back towards Mount Albert and took my older brother Zach to sign up for Mount Albert Lions, the club at the time, and so that's how we ultimately set up. It's crazy to think that we're one street, or we're across the road from Marist, but we're also behind Mount Albert, the Mount Albert Lions club. And if my dad went to Marist, then we would have been heavily into that Marist community, but we chose Mount Albert as the club, and my older brother Zach spent all his time at Mount Albert Lions. It led for my brother Trent to play at the Mount Albert Lions as well. Ethan played some Mount Albert Lions too, Ethan played at Mount Albert Lions too, and then myself and Thurston and Riley. So it set up for all 6 of us to eventually play for the Mount Albert Lions. Now I look back at who came through the teams, because I remember being around the teams and around trainings when my dad was coaching my older 2 brothers, and there was players like Chance Nickel-Clockstar that played with my brothers. Brandon Smith played with my brothers. Tofa Four Sipley who's my cousin, and he played at Mount Albert too. And Bunty R4, he played with my brother Trent. Nathan Cleary played at Mount Albert, so he played with my brother Ethan. And I got to play with the likes of Riley Price, the son of Steve Price, and Lani and Moala Graham Taufa too. So there's a whole number of Mount Albert Lions that that eventually went on to greater honours and played with NRL. But yeah, it was Mount Albert Lions. I look back, and that decision that my mom and my dad made back in the day when my oldest brother was at a ripe age of 5 or 4 or 5, it set us up for a whole lifetime at Mount Albert Lions, and it became a second identity for all of us and for all my family. Now my dad's a life member at the club after serving over 20 years and contributing to coaching and to things. So his name's up in the wall, and I remember him receiving that honour. He got to coach me for coached for you for a number of years, as well as my younger brother Thurston and Riley too. And yeah, he's been such a great member of the club, and I'm really glad that he got to be acknowledged in that type of way. And then my mum was a manager too during her time. We've roped in our cousins who came from out South Auckland to come and play for Mount Albert too. So yeah, it's one of those clubs that means a lot to us. And I had my 21st there. My brothers had their 21st there too. We've had a lot of history there, and I believe. Whenever our time comes for anyone in my family, I believe there'll be a time where we're going to have one last drive around that club room because of how much it means to our family.
I've got to ask this question. Any of you guys, any of you brothers, any of you play with a young Nathan Cleary?
Ethan did, yeah. Ethan did, yeah. So he played at Nathan Cleary back when Nathan Cleary was first. So up at Mount Albert in the club rooms, there's a photo of Nathan Cleary on the wall, and Ethan's a part of that club, part of that photo too. And no one believed in me, so he posted up on his social media that Nathan Cleary actually played for Mount Albert Lions, but also played with my brother Ethan. So yeah, he got to play with it. That's his claim to fame, my brother Ethan, that he played with. Future NRL star, so yeah.
But about Dad, did he play?
Dad didn't. Oh, I think Dad didn't play, but he was more so. His brothers played. I think maybe he did play for Manukau. I remember him mentioning Manukau or Mangere East. But yeah, my dad's born and bred in Mangere East, and he was around that area. So when he came to Mount Albert, he's fully committed to the Mount Albert Lions. But yeah, he's got a wealth of knowledge in rugby league, and he's taught me everything I knew. He's taught my brothers everything I knew. He influenced Trent to get into coaching as well. But yeah, he's been an important figure for our rugby league careers.
I love this. I love that he's very much self-taught as a coach and from his experience, but the service that he's given and the acknowledgement of the club to recognise that service by giving him a life membership. Fantastic for you, not only your dad, but for your family as well, and for what you've done through the club. What type of player was Matt Manukau?
Man, I was
What position was he?
I was second row centre. I played a bit of prop too, but yeah, I was a quick young man. So I was off the mark. I was known for having one of the best, just runs off the mark. So I was really strong in hitting the line. I'd often break the line, or they'll give the ball to me on the outside, and I'd be really strong in my attack. But I was also a really strong defensive player. So defense is what I like the most, because when you're fatigued and when you're back on the line and you've got to push up and you've got to inspire the troops to have a second effort, that's definitely one of the things that I enjoyed doing. But I was captain for a lot of my teams, so I captained my teams, and I was very much the player to G up the team or inspire the team, and whether it be at the back of the try line after tries to try and inspire and inspire the team and inspire the troops. So I was very much a player that liked to lead by my actions. So I'd say all the stuff behind the thing, but I'll be determined to go out and give my friends my all. And but also, yeah, so I played a majority of my time at second row. I really liked the edge type of play. My dad did footwork training and sprint training out down at Lovelock Park with with some of the coaches, one of my cousins as well. So he'd heavily invest in training with me around footwork and around agility, sprint training, athletics too. So yeah, there was a lot of things that my dad invested in to try and make me the best player. So yeah, I really miss playing, man. Centre, second row was the type of player that I was.
Well, Maris could be looking for a back row this year, back row centre. If you're not doing anything this season,
yeah. I don't know about Maris.
Welcome to come down to Murray Hubbard Park. And
if you're coaching Willie, of course, bro.
We'll try you. We'll have a look at you and see how you're going. Playing as a back row, on our show, the two of us, we talk a lot of NRL at the moment, and we've spoken about how we've watched a lot growing up.
Yep.
Was there any player in particular that inspired you, that you aspired to be like when you were coming through, when you were growing up? And of the players today, who do you think you compare yourself to? Or who do you think you'd be like?
Man, that's a good question. But I think number one for me, inspiring player for me and my brothers too, was definitely Sonny Bill. Man, the way that he was able to attack, but his offload game as well, and able to get outside defenders, but also his strength on both attack and defense was really inspiring. You know, you'd always see him his shoulder charges and that, which was cool in that. But I think the type of fundamental player he is, but also providing the X factor was something that I aspired to when I was growing up. So definitely he was one of the players that I looked up to. Any other player? Yeah, I'd say he was someone that I'd look up to. I feel like if there was a player that I could compare myself to today, that's a good question, man. I don't like comparing, but if I was to compare myself, maybe that's a bad example. I was going to say someone from the Storm, but that's a bad example.
You can't say Jerome Hughes.
No. I think Stephen Crichton. Yeah. That type of outside back. The way that he played is very reminiscent of how I like to think that I used to play like. And if I was to make the NRL, then he would have been a player that I would compare myself to. And the way that he attacks the line, but also his decision making on the outside, he's at times defensively sound, but also he'll make a mistake here too as well. So I think that the way that he plays now is something that I'd compare myself to. Maybe I was thinking about saying Fakaalofa as well. His work around the edges too during his time at the Storm. I think that I'd compare myself to. Yeah.
I reckon you should try and get a Fakaalofa haircut.
Maybe next year, man. Maybe next year if I go to Marist.
Go back to what you mentioned before being at school, and your teacher asked you what's more important.
Yeah.
When did you start to realise the importance of your education, and when did that start to take over the importance of sport to you?
Oh, that's a good question, bro. I think it definitely came when during my battle with cancer, with brain cancer, when I was a teenager, bro, and I was faced with the reality at 15 years old that it was either life or death for me. It was either I had to worry about my mortality, put my rugby league career, my aspirations as a young athlete on the side, and worry about my health and my well-being, and worrying about whether or not I'll still be here for the next day. So that was something that I had to battle with at a young age of 15 years old. You know, it was my life flipped upside down. I was getting ready to after I represented Auckland, I was getting ready to sign with an NRL agent. I'm not sure if you know him, Dixon MacGyver.
Yes.
So he was just starting out being an NRL agent, which he eventually signed a lot of future NRL stars. But he was interested in me, and I had to be 15, bro, to sign with him, to sign the contract with him as an NRL agent, and like 3 days after my 15th birthday, that's when I got diagnosed with brain cancer, and that's when I sort of had to understand that rugby league wouldn't be in the near future for me, as much as determined as I was to get back in the field and go out and to do trainings in there, and even the 2 games that I did play with when I came back from my sickness, that same fire and that same desire to go out on the field and play didn't resonate with me. I saw a different side of life. I saw people, like sick people in the hospitals. I saw doctors, nurses stressed out when they were caring for me, and also social workers as well. And it sort of showed me a different way of how to impact or make an impact on life and society. So that was the teller for me that I needed to look elsewhere outside of rugby league and consider other different options. Now, in high school, I was thankful enough to be the head boy at Avondale College. So I was the head boy at school, and that came with different opportunities to speak, to connect with other young leaders, and their aspirations were in education. So the education realm hovered around me. I was still sort of hopeful that I would make a career out of NRL, but I was getting older, and that in my mind as a teenager, I felt like I was getting older because all my friends were getting signed to NRL clubs, or my players I played it with and against were getting signed to NRL clubs, and the gap started to feel more more and more further away. And then I remember there was my last game that I played for First 13, and it was against Manurewa High School, and it was at Manurewa as well. And I played for the first time in a couple of years, and that game, Manurewa had a number of really talented players from the Marlins and from their school as well, and they were putting a beating on us. And I remember I got hit really bad in one of the tackles, but when you ask them about the type of player I am, bro, I'm a player for a lot of heart, so I'll get up and I'll still keep fighting, man. And I got up from that play, and because I knocked the ball on, and we packed the scrum, the crowd's on the side, cheering booing down my ear, saying all these different chants and singing different songs, mocking me, bro, mocking me. And that next play of the game, I broke the scrum, and that same guy that put a hit on me, I hit him back, and he knocked the ball on, and he went off injured, so he went off holding his shoulder, and that was really something that I took towards. But then I went off, I was concussed. But anyways, I got to the car. I got to the car with my dad, and my dad said, they're looking, Niue wants a centre, they need a back row, are you keen? I said, nah, I'm not keen. It's done, like I'm finished, I don't want to, rugby league's not for me anymore, I'll turn my attention elsewhere.
You talk about, in the game, you were a fighter. You obviously showed some fight within you. Did you learn a lot about yourself and the fight that you get to overcome your cancer? And while we're on this, thank you very much for being open with us to talk about this.
Yeah.
It shows a lot of strength from yourself to do that. But yeah, back to the question. Did you learn a lot about how strong you were?
I did. And my friends, I credit my best friends who would remind me of their captain, Matty, Captain Matty. And throughout my sickness, when I was we were only 15 years old at the time, but they'd say that if anyone can do it, if anyone can get through it, you can, Matt can. Like our captain can get through the sickness, through this cancer. And my best friend Carl and Simon would reinforce that to me, that, as hard as it may be and as hard as it will be, we believe our captain, with the heart of a lion, like the Manabit Lions, will get through it. So there was many trying times during that sickness. A lot of alone time where I'd sat with my thoughts, and also a lot of times where I'd challenge my own mortality, and I'd be praying to God, like, why me? Why are you doing this to me? I had a career, and I was keen to get stuck in and make an impact, and finally make it for my family. Finally be someone, and be someone for us. We're from Hendenav, we're from a small little neighborhood, but I wanted to be the one to make it. And but then he'd through a lot of prayer, through a lot of strength, he'd introduce me to people, and introduce me to situations that really pushed me to persevere and to find strength. And so definitely those times really molded me into finding strength and courage to carry on till today. And I still carry that strength in during that time when I was Captain Matty fighting the big fight.
Speaking to you and getting to know you a little bit throughout the last 12 months or so, talk about your brothers and the connections that you have. You're a close group now, all six of you.
Yep.
And whilst there's big age difference from the oldest to the youngest, you're in the middle. And did your battle bring you closer together, or were you already tight, or did that change?
100%, bro. 100%. That was the catalyst to bring our family together, not only with my brothers, but also with my parents as well, to bring them closer together, to bring us all closer together as a unit. I believe in that year, in that 2015 year, the year prior, my auntie tragically passed away, my grandfather passed away, and then I got diagnosed in cancer, all back to back, right in that same vicinity. So all those experiences really brought us together. But yeah, there was a lot of challenging times for my brothers that really challenged us to band together. My brother Trent, he was a huge support system for me during my sickness. He came in with me during my surgery to remove the tumor. I especially asked him to come in and stand with me, because throughout my journey, he showed me a lot of strength, and my brother Zach as well would be there to look after me and look over me, and wheelchair me around the hospital too, or come in and check up on me. My brother Ethan was also really supportive in the way that he banded together all of his friends to come over to shave their head with me and my friends too. So he got all of his friend group to come over and share that journey with me, and he dedicated his last year of high school to honouring me too. So and my two younger brothers, they were young at the time, but they still remember some of the in some bits of that journey. But I'd say definitely it brought us closer together as a group and as a family and as a brotherhood too.
You return back to school, obviously, and then, as you said, you become head boy.
Yep.
And your focus is on your education, and you change from sport, getting your university entrance degree.
Yeah.
What made you focus on French?
French.
I've had to ask this question. You go to Dunedin,
Yep.
and you study French.
Yep.
Whereas you're new way in from Hendon Ave, playing
Hang out
to Avondale College.
Yep.
French.
So back in Avondale Intermediate in year 7, I get the call up from my teacher to go to the front office because we got a new student. Went to the office, and I see a pale white boy with his mother and a Samoan and a brown father, and they say he's French and he can't speak any. He can understand some English, but he mainly speaks French. So his name is Tom, and we became best friends right there. I helped him into the classroom. I helped him meet everyone, and in that Avondale Intermediate group, we had a group of islanders. So it was all Samoans in that group. So it was me and my 3 best mates. We were all Samoan. And this Frenchie has just come in and joined our friend group, and he was not scared of them at all. He'd fight them too. He was very strong French, very not afraid, and I'd learn about his culture and his language, and I'd learn about and he'd teach me the swear words as well, and he'd teach me some French, but mainly conversational stuff that I still carried on. And I went and visited his house. His mum used to own a bakery in Grey Lynn, and she would. Because I'd go to school without lunch sometimes, so Tom's mum would pack extra lunch. So I'd go and eat some of these weird French food. Some of the meat looked like dog food, bro. Not gonna lie, but there was some nice sweet food as well. So it really pushed me, and it really interested me to learn that language through my brother Tom, and we've remained friends ever since. But yeah, I thought that it would be cool cool skill to have whether I go overseas to Europe one day and be able to utilize it. So yeah, that's pretty much how French came about. After my first semester in French, I questioned why the hell did I pick up this minor, because it was hard as to learn, bro. But yeah, I eventually become fluent in la langue française. And yeah, ever since it's
a bit harder than just the swear words.
Yep. It's a bit harder to learn different tenses, different vocabulary, different grammar, and it's funny because I can speak more French than I can speak Niuean. So sorry to my Niuean community out there too.
Because my immediate thought was, when I'd heard you went to Dunedin, you went to Otago University, and you're working here, that you were doing a journalism degree. Obviously, now we know you did French.
Yep.
Where did the journalism come from?
So journalism came from, I switched. I started off doing my degree in Bachelor of Science, major in psychology, because I wanted to stick with something that related to health. But then I failed my first semester, so I moved to communications. And communications degree was something I didn't really know what the careers paths were, but I looked online, careers with communications, and I looked for the coolest one that sounded the best, so I could sound successful. And journalism sounded like I said, oh, that's a cool one. That sounds cool. So I picked journalism, and there was an internship at the end of the year in my 3rd year called Tuputoa, and they matched me up with Pacific Media Network. So I knew about PMN, I knew about 531 PI, but yeah, I started my journalism career in Dunedin, where it was the rise of COVID. It was right at the peak of COVID, where there was over 5,000 cases in Auckland a day. So a lot of my experience as a journalist for the first 2 years at least was mainly due to COVID. So yeah, that's how I came. I did that internship from 2021, November 2021 till February 2022. And then I worked for PMN from June that year right up until October. And then I spent some time at TVNZ. And then I came back to PMN at the start of last year.
And what are your aspirations? Where does Matt Manukua, the journalist, where does he see himself being in the greater scheme of your journey?
I think, and this comes back to my upbringing, but also it comes back to my journey through cancer, where I found an affinity of connecting with people when I was in, and I mentioned it in one of these interviews before, but when I was in hospital and I was surrounded by other vulnerable people and other vulnerable families where we were at ground level and we shared each other's stories and we connected on that type of level, I found an affinity to that. So this job has really afforded me those opportunities where I can come at the same level as the people, hear their stories and connect with them and relate to them in that type of way. So I want to continue to do that, and I want to keep, continue to connect with people and tell people stories, but also give a platform for our people to not be afraid to tell their stories, but also to be authentic to themselves. Sports reporting in particular has been something that I've specialized in for this year, which I've picked up a lot of responsibilities in the news team, but also on air with you, Willie, and the Overtime podcast too. And that's been really good to keep my connection to sports still alive through these sports reporting too. So it's a different capacity than I would have liked when I was a teenager, like we touched on before, of connecting with sport, but it's still something that I still find passion. I still find passion in this type of career path that I'm in now.
What's been your highlight so far as a journalist? Is there anyone in particular you've interviewed, or a particular story, or anyone you've worked with?
Yeah. Well, the podcast has been one of my biggest highlights. I'm not gonna lie, bro. Like the podcast and the Saturday show, when I put my hand up to do that, it was something that I was unfamiliar with in terms of breaking ground of being on air and doing these types of podcast stuff, but also learning from the likes of a sporting legend. I keep saying it, bro, like yourself, and learning off you. So that's been a huge highlight for my career at this point that I can really put my hand on, because it's a rarity that our Pacific people are afforded opportunities in this space for media. So that's what it's been good to have people on, to welcome people on who are aspiring to sit in our seats one day, and really give them a platform to share their thoughts and share their knowledge. So that's been a highlight for me this year. I think there's been some times in my journalism career where I've been challenged, about stories that are controversial, information that I got wrong, or communities that were really unhappy with the stories that I did, but you sort of build thick skin towards it. I remember when I was, and one of my claims to fame, my highlight story was, I was in Papua New Guinea last year with the Prime Minister at the time, Chris Hipkins, and we're in the Pacific Islands. Obviously, PNG's a Pacific Island, but we're set there with about 10 other Bailangi media, and myself and Mr. Aaron Ryan and Barbara Driva are the only 3 Pacifica media. And in that space, during those media scrums, all these journalists are fighting to ask their questions. They're talking over each other. They're saying all these different things, and it's, as a Pacifica person, we're respectful. We wait our turn. We're taught not to speak over each other. So I'm standing there in the works, and I'm just holding my microphone and just waiting. Me and Aaron were waiting for our turn, and Barbara Driver's looking at me, giving me the auntie look, like, ask a question. And while these guys are fighting to ask their questions, so Chris Hipkins said, oh, yeah. But she's giving me the auntie eyes, to ask a question. And then in front of everyone, she stops the press conference. She says, excuse me. Sorry, Prime Minister. Matt Manukua from Pacific Media Network, he wants to ask a question. And that silence, bro, silence. And I went, holy shit, like, imagine if I ask a dumb question here, like, so how's the weather today, Prime Minister? But I went,
Spotlight.
Yeah, and I went, oh, shucks, so I asked my question, but then sort of that experience really stuck with me, because you understand the importance of our role as Pacific media and as Pacific media journalists to tell our stories in the most authentic way possible. So, yeah, that's some of the highlights for my career so far.
Finish on the family.
Yep.
Family. A lot of the family, mum and dad, younger brothers have moved to Brisbane, expanding over there.
Yep.
Obviously, that's a bigger market. The Pacific market over there is growing as far as journalism and sport reporting. Any ambitions or any thoughts on moving there and moving to the family?
Yeah, I think one of my goals, and I wrote it down at the start of the year, but one of my goals in my career is to be next to Sonny Bill on 9 Wide Rules of Sport and reporting on a NRL game. So that's an ambition. However far in the future it is or not, I just feel like I see it in the future. I visualize it that it's going to happen. So I really believe that will happen one day. But for me, Australia is not an option in the immediate future for me, but maybe in the long term, I'd love to go over there and just to be with my family. But yeah, now the reins have moved on to my younger brother Thurston, who's named after the famous Jonathan Thurston, and my younger brother Riley to make a career out of rugby league and really push to be someone great. So I really reinforce those messages to my younger brothers.
And back here, you've recently become an uncle for the first time.
Become an uncle of my brother.
See, when you speak of your little nephew, the joy and the pride that you beam with.
Yeah.
And it's not your son, it's your brother's son, but you're just as proud of the little man. Tell us a little bit about that, becoming an uncle for the first time.
Beautiful experience, bro. It was an unreal experience. It's like I said, it's a testament to how close me and my brothers are with each other. My brother Ethan, who had the baby, and my sister-in-law Caroline, my brother Ethan, we've grown up together. We've done athletics together. We trained together. We played together. We cried together. We shared rooms all our lives. I was the best man at his wedding, and for him to be the one to welcome in the first child of our family was really special. And just seeing my brother be a dad and seeing him every single day as doing his dad duties, but also as husband duties for his wife, has been very special to me. And the moment I laid eyes on young Salem, the little baby, I cried my eyes out, man, because I looked at him and I looked at my brother, and it looked exactly like my brother, and I was so surprised. But and I told my brother, I said, I'm so proud of you, bro. I love you, bro. And it's the start of a new chapter and the start of a new generation of our Manukau family. And just that the baby is a reflection of that and the times that we're pushing on to the future. So I can't wait for the day that it will be my time to welcome in my child. And me and my brothers, our first and trainer especially, we're joking around about we're going to book him into training on our training day at Mount Albert. He's going to be... I'm going to buy him some boots and buy him some training gears. So as soon as he's able, he's going straight to the field so we can start training. Yeah,
that's awesome, and congratulations to Ethan.
Thank you,
and your mum and dad. I know they were over here, the proud grandparents as well. Matty, I truly want to say thank you for opening up and giving us your story. For our audience, hopefully you know a little bit more about myself and Matty and our journey and to where we are. Your journey has been a real story of what life is, ups and downs, laughs and tears. And I think what you said before about fighting, you've definitely been a fighter, and you're winning every battle to here. And the fight that you've shown so far in your life will take you a long, long way. And I'm definitely sure we'll see you sitting with Sonny Bill on the sideline of a Warriors game. Just don't have your Warriors mug or your Warriors hat on when you're doing it. Okay, so, all the very best to you. Thank you for the past 12 months. We're nearly towards the end of our season here. So I'll take this opportunity to say thank you now for the support and for everything you've done to help me. And thank you so much for sharing your story. It's been awesome, brother.
Thank you, brother.
So that brings us to an end of episode 17 of Overtime, as we do every week. Matty, where can they see this and where can they catch us?
You can find us on our Overtime.Pacific Grandstand on Instagram, as well as Overtime.531PI on YouTube. Stay tuned on Spotify, Overtime Spotify. You can see episode 17 of the series this week, as well as our 531PI YouTube channel, where you can access this week's episode thanks heaps for tuning in, and thanks heaps for listening to my story. Again, Willie, thank you so much for the opportunity. And I'm looking forward to next week where we wrap it up and we get to reflect on what the year that's been. But it's been an awesome journey, and I think that it's been a fitting way to sort of cap my year off, but also work with a legend like you and keeping my sports and dreams and aspirations alive through this show and this podcast, Super.
That brings us to an end of episode 17. I hope you've enjoyed the show. If you'd like to, go through, like Matty said, and watch the whole series up until now. We've one more next week. And if you're listening, I hope you're enjoying our show, Pacific Grandstand, 8 o'clock till 11 on 531 PI, the station, bringing Pacific people together. This has been Overtime as part of our Pacific Grandstand show. Have a wonderful day.
Me.
Thank you.